Number one, if you will. And the title of this panel is Identity Theft. There's a lot of titles here, so bear with us. We're going to have a lot of fun. These are some incredible, incredible people. The topic here, we're going to try and stick to it if we can. If we get off topic, it's quite all right. Identity theft, fraud, cybersecurity, and how to set strong passwords. Now we have some awesome people up here. What I'm going to do, and we've tried to put people from right to left. It kind of didn't work, but that's okay.
I can move.
It's okay. Well, I think we're fine. I'm going to give each one of you a minute or less to introduce yourself, what company you're from, and what you do at that company, if you don't mind. Great. We're going to start right here with Stephanie.
I'm Stephanie Walsh, and I do public relations for Sprint. And I do public relations around anything related to privacy and legal issues.
Awesome.
My name is Reza Zaheri, and I manage the forensics and investigations team at DirecTV. Been about 7 years, and I'm heavily involved on the incident response side. We do a lot of security awareness for our employees, and just dealing with all the bad things that people do in our company.
Hi, my name is Satnam Narang. I'm a security response manager at Symantec. So I do incident response for our enterprise customers, and also do threat research in general, but I'm really passionate about looking at threats on social networks. And my friends call me the social network. That's my nickname.
I'm Gibby McCaleb. I work for Sony Network Entertainment. I'm the senior manager in charge of security engineering. Came to Sony 3 years ago, built out their 24/7 security operations center.
Awesome.
There you go. That's it.
I'm going to ask all of you just to speak nice and loud, just to make sure that the camera can pick you up. So we have a great lineup here today. We have Sony, former MySpace, head of MySpace security, Sprint, DirecTV, well, I'm sorry, the MySpace guy couldn't make it, and Symantec. Now, I'm gonna start first with Stephanie. With regards to, and Stephanie, you're from Sprint, and today you're kind of announcing a new product that you guys have out recently. I'd love for you to talk to us about that product and how it ties into this topic first. And then each one of you, I know you bring a different background to this. You're welcome to dive into each one of these, especially I know we talked to Reza about which part of this would you go into. I want you to bring your specialty so that you can give tactical tips, and that's really what this is about. We've got an hour to spend here. I want to dive into some tactical stuff, what's working and what can we use on a daily basis. That's why we're here. And if at any time you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. This really is tactical. We're going to dive through these 4 questions as quick as possible and dive into some Q&A. So Stephanie, talk to us first. What's working in this space, and please tell us about your new product.
Okay. Well, I'm also a parent of a 10 and an 11-year-old who do not have phones yet. But I would say, I know, standing up to peer pressure. But I would say that, first about this new product, one of the things that I was doing some research before this, and I was looking at some statistics, and right now, 56% of 8 to 12-year-olds have phones. They have their own phones. And 1 out of 4 teenagers say that they access the internet primarily from their phones. So obviously, it's really important to understand what we're doing when we hand our kid a phone. So if you're not ready to hand your kid that kind of phone, this is what Josh is referring to. We have a new device that we just came out with. It's called the WeGo. So let's say you're feeling pressure to, for whatever reason, if they're stuck at swim practice or soccer or you're, carpool or whatever, and for whatever reason you feel that you need to hand your younger kid a phone, like a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. WeGo is that phone. It has preset texts, like I'm there, I'm here. It has like 10, how many preset texts is it? 50 preset messages, but they're already written into the phone.
I love you, Mom.
I might not be one of them.
Genius. There you go, write that down.
Should have thought of that. But yeah, so it's a great, simple phone. It has a panic cord that you pull. It's a very basic phone. It's like an up arrow and a down arrow, and you choose the text you want to send, or you choose from the list of people you want to call to tell them you made it, or you're somewhere else. And that's about it. It's got one button on the front, and we'll show it to you later. So it's a great option if you don't want to hand a kid that kind of powerful access to the internet.
We're going to have one at lunch you guys can play with as well.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Reza, walk us through what's working in any one of these topic things and bring into kind of the stuff that you're working on.
Sure. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, so, my field is cybersecurity. I'm on the forensic side, and you guys might be thinking, well, what do you have to do with security awareness? There were so many people in our company having their machines infected and having it hacked into, by entities from outside the network, that I literally panicked. Because I was dealing with so many investigations on a daily basis. I walked to my boss and said, I need to do something. I need to do some security awareness and get the message out and train people so that they will understand the attacks, they can respond to them accordingly. So we created this security awareness program, and at first I went around kind of presenting to everyone, just on a whim, and it became so popular that now we've actually put it online. And so we've trained so far, I think it's like 3,000 people. We have another 20,000 to go. And I would say of all the things, I would say this is the most effective method that we have to combat the threats online, because I see people's faces when you teach them what these attacks look like, when you show them big real world examples on a projector, say, look, this is what a phishing email looks like. If you click on this link, this is what happens. They're like, you see their eyes, they just go, oh my God, I get it, I see it, I understand it now. So security awareness, I think, is absolutely key. You have to build trust with your kids, with your students. A lot of people come up to us now. We're the security group, and usually people should be scared of security people. But a lot of people come up. Yesterday I got 3 different emails from employees that said, "Hey, Reza, take a look at this. I think this is bad." And they were actually, bad emails coming in where they were trying to breach into our network. So that stuff makes me really happy. When I see that, I'm like, this is good. We're fighting back. So security awareness, I think, is key. Trust, I think, is key. When you're dealing with phones, when you're dealing with computers, only have what you need installed on those systems. If you don't need it, remove it. Right? Simple as that. If it's an app on a phone, if it's an application on a computer, if you don't need it and if you haven't used it in a long time, just get rid of it. And if you do have it and you do need it, keep it up to date. Because a lot of people think, oh, I just have to, patch Microsoft operating system and then I'm good. No, you have to patch Microsoft, you have to patch Apple, you have to patch Linux, you have to patch all the third-party applications on there. So QuickTime, iTunes, Java, Flash, these are all the ways that these hackers are breaking into the network as well. So that is also very important. I would say having some kind of web content filtering in place to try and see where your students are going in school as well as at home, and also some kind of endpoint detection. So, my good friend here, like the Symantec antivirus programs, any of these programs, they're going to really help out as well. And then, I know this is very difficult, but keeping abreast of all the latest news and the hacker, and just all the threats online. I keep up with like 250 blogs on a weekly basis. I have no choice. I'm trying to get my team to do this because I'm dying. But this is what you have to do to stay, and I'm sure you know as well, you guys know, I mean, this is, like you mentioned, John, this is no joke. As security defenders, we have 1,000 doors that we have to defend. They just need one door to get in. And they'll just keep banging away until they break it, whether it's on your kid's phone, on Facebook, in a corporate environment. So it's a very tough challenge for us. And these guys are determined. They will get in. That's one thing I've realized. If they want to get in, they will get in. So, and I can keep going on, so I'll just keep quiet for now.
That's pretty helpful, isn't it? That'd be awesome. Thank you, I like that. Satnam, walk us through what's working.
Just to kind of pick up off of what Reza said, a lot of the companies are pretty much aware that security is vital. Like, you need to have some sort of security mechanisms in place, whether that's antivirus software and computers. Most computers you buy from stores like Best Buy come shipped with antivirus software. Organizations are installing endpoint protection as well. You have mail security as well. So across the board, I think security in general has become a part of the fabric of day-to-day life. Everybody knows you need it. The one thing that most people don't realize is your mobile phones also need security as well, because as you probably all know, mobile phones are everywhere. Everyone has a mobile phone device in their hand. We were talking about kids 8 to 12 getting their phones at an early age. I think Stephanie said about 56% have a mobile phone. I have a niece who's 12 years old, and she got her first phone when she was about 8 years old. So it's pretty crazy to think about that. But a lot of these phones don't come equipped with security software. Android, you need security software on there. iPhone is a little bit more strict. It's very good in terms of making sure that a lot of malicious apps won't end up on there. So it's more secure than I would say Android, but regardless, even if you don't get malicious software on the iPhone, you can also get socially engineered. So like Reza was saying, people are going to try to target you with emails or websites that you go to that might try to phish you. So there's other ways that you can get impacted. So we need to continue to do the work that we've been doing over the last decade, which is making sure security is a part of the fabric of your day-to-day life.
What's the #1 app on an Android we should download to do a security scan?
Norton Mobile Security, of course.
He's not paying us to say that.
I mean, you can use a different variety of applications. I would obviously recommend ours because I have to. But I mean, anything out there. But you have to be careful too. I don't know if you guys heard in the news. You may not have. There was an application that was uploaded to the Google Play Store about 2 weeks ago. It was called Virus Shield. And it costs $4, and about 30,000 people installed this application on their devices, and it didn't do anything. There was no content in there whatsoever. All it did was, it had a little picture of a shield with an X on it, and once you clicked on it, it turned into a check mark, and that's it. So you had about 30,000 people lose $4, so do the math. So you have to also be careful and make sure you use legitimate security software from known vendors. So I wouldn't encourage you to just download any security app in the app stores. Try the trusted brands such as ours or others, and I think you'll be better off.
Real quick raise of hands. Who has an Android in this room? Raise your hand, nice and tall. So I'd say less than half. How many iPhones? Okay, more than half. So we're looking at almost 70% for those of you watching on video. That's great. Gibby, walk us through what's working in this space right now.
Well, I totally agree with what two colleagues here have said about tools and how that's important. But I'm going to go to what Reza started to talk about at the beginning is education. I mean, having programs like this, which I think is fantastic. And this is coming from a guy who spends, you don't even want to know how many millions of dollars I spend a year on tools to protect the Sony network. The weakest link at the end of the day is and always will be human being. And you look at one of the most famous hackers in the world, this guy named Kevin Mitnick. He really actually was an expert in something called social engineering. Not to say that he didn't have good computer skills. But as an example, years ago I used to have a boutique security company that did social engineering, which basically is a term for hacking human beings. I got into a Department of Defense facility that was protected by a multi-million-dollar biometric system with a box that I got out of a dumpster. I literally walked up to a secure door that required biometric to get in, waited for somebody to come out, was carrying the box, the guy was polite, held the door for me, and I walked away. And that's just an example, and this is military-grade Department of Defense stuff. So the human being is always going to be the weakest link, and that's you, that's your students, your children, and myself. So I think educating on the risks, things like phishing. Phishing nets a ton of money every year. Has anybody ever got an email from somebody like a son of a general in Nigeria? Anybody? Yeah.
That's my uncle.
Has anyone ever responded? Honestly, not you say, yeah, I did. They net something like $300-400 million a year, and that's been going on. Oddly enough, that started with the fax machine. And it's smart people. There's a bank, I believe in Brazil, that literally the bank got shut down because they fell into a similar scam. A woman in Oregon gave away $4 million, one person. So I mean, the point is that there's something innate within us that we want to trust. That we want to trust our fellow human beings. And there's a term in security, it's trust but verify. So if it's an email that doesn't make sense, like what catches a lot of people is it's addressed from a friend. Take a second and look at what they call the header. What is the sender's address? I get these all the time, and it's like from my ex-wife, and I look at it. Really strange email address. Things like that, and they'll say, hey, check out this video. Well, I know her enough to know that she's going to send a video, she'll write a little bit more. Or take that extra step and go, hey, was this you? Be amazed how many of those things that we catch. At Sony, we started a phishing campaign where we actually did our own phishing, our own employees. We sent out phishing emails just to kind of see. It just was amazing how many people just went, oh, click, you know, it's from Sony, click, you know. And we actually used an external email address and stuff like that. So that was a great educational tool to show people like what we were talking about. I could go on for another hour and a half.
How many of us are using a Gmail address as our personal address? Raise your hand, nice and big. Okay, so I'd say 80% or more of the room. That's the world's most widely used email address. And tomorrow I'm going to follow up and email, probably not tomorrow, it's Saturday. But Monday I'm going to follow up to all of us that registered for this event and send you a little video that we created for some of our brands on how to turn on two-step authentication for that, so that your phone on the side, if somebody tries to get in and do the same thing to email all your people, we'll send you a little video that we made for our clients that's kind of fun. Let's walk through what's not working in this space right now. Let's start with Stephanie, if you can. Walk us through some examples of stuff that might have worked 6 months ago or a couple years ago, or things that we thought were working, but they're not anymore.
Well, I'm not sure that this ever worked. So I'll say this, you know, wireless carriers spend a lot of time and a lot of money on protecting your privacy. In fact, they're required to do so by law. The FCC requires wireless carriers to be very, very careful with your personal and private data. So we also spend a lot of time educating our customers about how they can protect their data, and we put a ton of information out on our website. We send information in bills to tell you what to do to try to keep your information safe. And I think one of the things, and I'm just as guilty of this as a parent and as a consumer as everybody else, people don't take the time to research and to learn and to educate themselves about what they can do and what they really have to do to, as the rest of the panelists are saying, it really comes down to the human being. And there is a lot of information out there. I mean, you should have a passcode on your phone. I think I saw a statistic where still only not even 30% of people have a passcode on their phone, where you have to enter a number to get into your phone. I mean, it's so simple, but you have to have that, and your child has to have that. Be careful when you surf on your phone. Don't just click on a link if you don't know who it came from, and even if you think you might know who it came from, it's really hard to tell on those tiny little screens. And people who are scammers who are trying to phish or to scam you, they're relying on the fact that it's tiny. You're like, oh, it's from someone I know, I'll click on it. Have an app that you've downloaded for your phone where you, if it does get lost, if your kid has a phone, and who here who has kids have kids who lose things? And I wish it were as easy as, well, you've lost it now and you wasted $300, you don't get another one. But unfortunately, it's not just that bad. Now you've lost it and someone has all of your kids' personal data somewhere. So download an app like Lookout. Lookout.com is one of the apps that we recommend. We're partners with them, and we do a lot of consumer education with them. Download that app, and I think it's $5 a month or something like that for a family pack. That way you can wipe that phone clean if it's lost remotely. So you're erasing all the data from that phone when it's lost or stolen. You can locate it via GPS if it's lost first. Try to locate it even when before the battery's gone, it pings. So I think the thing that's still not working and that people really need to, myself included, be better at is educating themselves about what they can do.
That's great.
Yeah.
Reza, walk us through what's not working.
I would say first off, I'll flip it and say, not doing security awareness and expecting, just like my colleague was saying, expecting people to go out there, the students, your kids, to just go out there and find this information on their own. It's just not going to work. You have to talk to them. You have to build those relationships. You have to give this information to them. So I know that it's common sense, but actually, it needs to happen. So that's the first thing. Second thing is just relying solely on technology. Again, as my colleague Gibby was saying, we can buy millions of dollars worth of technology and put it out on our networks. At the end of the day, if someone's going to click on something, they're going to click on it, and and it's so hard for a lot of these security companies to keep up with all the latest security threats. So, if the security products are taking care of 80-90% of the threats, there's still that 10%, right? Because nothing is 100%. And it's the user education that's going to take care of that 10%. So don't rely on technology only, or these blocking technologies. I would also say just being reactive, just kind of sitting back and waiting for something to happen. Those days are, because we as security people, you know, we put technologies in place and we're like, all right, we're good, we can walk away now. And it's like, no. You have to constantly monitor these things. You have to constantly look at alerts. And for you guys, talk with your students, talk with your kids, look at their phone, look at the computer, see what's going on. What do they have installed? Don't just build it and walk away, because this is an ongoing thing. This is a, you know, it's a daily responsibility. I would say, you know, so just walking away, that's not going to work. I think that's it for now. Yeah, and then if you guys have questions afterwards, I can ask. Yeah.
Very good. Satnam.
Yeah, you know, just to underscore what everyone seems to be saying here is you can't just rely on one single technology, or, you know, you can't have a single point of failure. You have to do multiple things in order to be safe online. I think what's not working is that we're not, you know, impressing upon our kids and, you know, those who are growing up with technology right from, you know, when they grow up, is that they need to be more skeptical of things. I myself, I blog a lot for Symantec. I do a lot of blogging for threats in social media. I pretty much live on social media. I'm on every single app you can think of. And I see constantly the one thing that happens most is there's a famous marketing guy's name is Gary Vaynerchuk. He has a quote that says, "Marketers ruin everything." And, you know, the fact that, you know, marketers are out there looking at social media and they're trying to find ways to market to people because, you know, if Reza tells me he likes a product, I'm going to trust Reza because, you know, I know him. You know, but if someone else comes to me and I don't know them, I'm not going to trust them. So the cyber criminals themselves, they realize that people trust more on social networks than anywhere else, so they're going to target people on social networks. You know, I'm sure some of you have seen, you know, cases where people will click on a link and they'll say, you know, hey, is this picture of you? And you click on that link, and it takes you to a web page, and it looks like Twitter, but in actuality, it's a phishing page. You know, but you click on that link because it came from Reza. I mean, if it came from some random person in an email, you're not going to click on that, most likely, because you've been taught that already. But in social media, we place a lot of trust, and I think that's something that we have to work on. And, you know, I see cases where things that, you know, you have to be skeptical to think it would happen and be real, people fall for it all the time, especially kids. Recently, I wrote a blog about Instagram. So on Instagram, there were some photos circulating of people who won the lottery, you know, maybe a year ago or maybe 6 months ago, and people are pretending to be these lotto winners and saying, hey, if you want me to send you $1,000, follow my profile, screenshot this picture and share it with your friends. And thousands upon thousands of people followed and shared this picture, thinking that they would get $1,000 from a lottery winner. I mean, you know, you would think that most common sense would make you think that you're not going to actually get those $1,000. But, I mean, one account had over 100,000 people follow that account. I mean, so what I'm saying here is that really I think the key is, you know, just understanding that social media is the area where all the cyber criminals are looking at very carefully and they're targeting. And where are your kids? On social media. So I think it's important for you guys to also keep up and be more proactive, as Reza was saying, about what's happening on social media and the type of threats that are out there.
Well, Gibby, what's not working?
I just feel like I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah, come
So
on,
for the fourth time in the last 45 seconds, it's not taking it seriously. And you know, when we were all kids, we all got to talk from our parents, like, you know, don't take candy from strangers, don't get into somebody's car you don't know. This is that times 10. This is, you know, and we're just getting started. The technology boom is continuing to ramp up. It is so much a fabric of our lives. As Joel was talking about before, did I just call you Joel?
Yeah, it's okay.
As Josh was saying before, you know, you put something on the internet, it's there forever, and it's easier to get rid of a full body tattoo than it is to take a tweet. And I have an experience with one of these two. But it's important to just hammer this home to the kids, to the students, to your children, how critical this is, how you need to take this seriously. And you look from a corporate standpoint, which is where we come from. Look at what happened to Target and what it cost them. TJX got hammered twice. Heartland Payment System, which probably most of you don't know, one of, if not the largest hack in history. They process credit cards for 1 million different companies. 120 million credit card numbers were stolen, I believe. You know, extrapolate that down to your level. Don't be the person who didn't take this seriously and then suddenly you're dealing with identity theft because you don't have the millions of dollars in insurance money that the Targets and TJX departments and the Sonys for that matter have. Take this seriously. Passwords are key. I think that's coming up here in a second. I'll talk about some of the fraud situations that I've seen.
Let's move into that now.
Okay.
Walk us through, I mean, we can move into resources. Walk us through some resources that we can use, tools that you like, that you're using. We'll start with you, Gibby. What are some tools? And then I would also want you to talk about passwords, because I think that the three of you gentlemen are really good at that in the password. So bring up some tools or resources and talk about Heartbleed.
Let me explain what, we're getting the Heartbleed? Okay, yeah, no, okay.
The hot time. Who knows what Heartbleed is? Raise your hand. It's huge. We all need to know about it. Am I wrong?
Yep. Yeah, no, not at all. No.
Okay.
No, let me back up one second and explain how this sort of fraud and why passwords are important, although not the end all be all. And, you know, most of for the general purposes, they're not going after you. They're not going after you. They're going after you. There's a significant amount of money involved, and what happens is these crime syndicate now are involved, and they make X amount of dollars for these lists, and you know the accuracy of the list, of course, gets more money. So what happens normally is you might, you know, they're not going to hack your Facebook. They're not hacking into Facebook to get your password. They're hacking into, like, you know, Bob's Cable House that you signed up for a mailing list or whatever. And because a lot of times people use the same email address and password on the website there that they might for their online banking, or they might for Facebook, or in our case, the PlayStation. And some syndicate, a lot of them are coming from Russia these days, will buy a list of 20,000, 30,000 names, and they'll put it into an automatic script, and they'll just keep trying and trying and trying until they get through. So why a strong password is important is it makes it just that much harder for the hacker to extract your password. They do something that's called dictionary attack, or then brute force, which basically brute force is trying combinations of letters and numbers. To say that you can come up with a 30-character password that can be hacked, you know, anything can be gotten through. But what you want to do is you want to raise the bar and make it difficult for them to get your stuff. And I'll give you an example. Is when I did that security consulting company, went to a large company here in LA. I sat down at somebody's desk and was on their account, on their system in 10 seconds. I just looked around. The guy had USMC, all this other stuff, and I just took a stab. His password was server 5. We took what's called a SAM file. We ran it through these tools, and at that time, this was in the 90s, the Lakers were huge. 30+% of the company's password was the Lakers. So that's an easy example, but technology is advanced. So having strong passwords is important. It raises the bar, it makes it that much difficult. If you extrapolate this down to your home, you know, having lights on in front, motion detector lights, door locks, you know, that kind of thing, doesn't mean that you're not going to get robbed, but you're just making it that much harder where a thief's going to go, I'm going to move on to the next one. I recommend any kind of key password vault, password vault. LastPass, I think, is an easy one to use. It works on Windows, Mac, Android, iOS. They have a free version. I try it out. If you want the paid version, I think it's like $1 a month. There are others. That's just one I think that's easy to use, because the truth is that
it's called LastPass, LASTPASS.com. Works on just about every device that you have.
Yeah. And there's others. I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but
it's pretty good.
If it's difficult for students to use, they're just not going to use it. And it also has a tool in there that it can generate passwords for you that are super complicated. And so you just make it that much more difficult.
How many of us are using a password generator like LastPass? Raise your hand, or one other competitor. Wow. Okay, this is why we're here. That's why we're here.
Are you worried those get hacked into, and then people get your whole string of passwords? I mean,
well, it's a valid point. LastPass, I believe, stores it, your passwords in the cloud. The way I look at it is that they're probably doing a better job security than I am. So, and since that is their business, I would like to hope that they do a good job of protecting it. That's, again, there's no end-all be-all when you look at banks that have been hacked, Target, payment companies that you want to believe are trustworthy, but it's still better than what I'm doing on my own. There's a question.
So what exactly do they do?
LastPass. So what it is it has two components. One generates a password, and you can click all sorts of criteria, how many characters you want, all that sort of stuff. And you click a button, and it generates a password, and then you copy and paste that into your eBay site. And what's nice about it is it stores all the passwords for all the different websites that you use. So you can have a different one for each one. Because one of the things that works for the fraudsters is that many of us don't want to remember 19 different passwords, so we've got one, maybe two that we rotate through. So if your account gets taken over from Bob's Candle House or whatever, you know, little tiny website that's got no security, but you happen to use the same email address and the same password that you do for Bank of America or Citibank, you know, you just handed them a key, they just got to figure out which login to use, which you made their job really, really easy.
So
And
it
that's
keeps track of all the passwords. You can generate them on that, and it also keeps track of all.
it stores them, yes, and I think if I remember right, it has a reminder to rotate from time to time, and it's, you know, it's available. You know, one of the challenges if you don't want your password stored in the cloud, like this one brought up, is that how do you do when you're accessing your bank account from your mobile device and your laptop, and you've got a 14-character, you know, character password, so it can work multiple devices. So again, there's an advantage. The trade-off is it stores your stuff.
It's good to look at though, it's worth it. A lot of security professionals say it's a good place to start. Satnam, walk us through some of the tools that we should be looking at.
You know, I agree with my colleague here. You know, definitely think you should use a password management tool like a LastPass. We also offer one called Norton Identity Safe. That's another one that you can look at. There's a few others that you can look at as well. One is called KeePass. That's KeePass. And another one called the number one password. So these are all different tools that you can use. Some of these are cloud-based, so they'll store them in the cloud. Some of them are just locally based, so the passwords will be stored and encrypted on your hard drive. So if you're worried about having your passwords in the cloud, you could use one of the ones that doesn't. You know, just to kind of talk about the concept of him saying, you know, about Bob's Candle Shop. How many of you use Dropbox? Anybody here use Dropbox? Okay, so a couple years ago, Dropbox was compromised, and a bunch of users had their accounts accessed into. How many of you guys think people on Dropbox got phished in this case? Naturally, right? Wrong. So what ended up happening was another website, another third-party website was compromised. The email addresses and passwords were taken, and these attackers decided to try them on Dropbox. And guess what? People reused the same password on Dropbox as they did on this other site. So I think the key thing here is not to reuse your passwords, but as we're all kind of saying, how can you remember 200 passwords? It's impossible. You know, using a password management tool is vital. You know, a lot of people are talking about Heartbleed. Everyone here pretty much raised their hand when we mentioned Heartbleed. And for me personally, I think Heartbleed is kind of like a wake-up call. I compared it to my uncle who had a heart attack. You know, after he had his heart attack, he started looking at, hey, you know, I need to change my eating habits, my exercising habits. I think it's a wake-up call to everybody to sort of look at your password management habits. Like, how many of you changed the password that you created for your Facebook or Twitter account since you first created it? Raise your hand. So you've changed your passwords. Okay, great. Some of you didn't raise your hand. So, I mean, now's a good time to consider changing your password. And, you know, I think that's really important. And, you know, also looking at these password management tools as another option is a great idea. If you can't do any of these things, say you don't want to use a password management tool, try to come up with a passphrase instead of a password that's like, you know, very complicated with characters and numbers you might not remember. So there's a comic called XKCD. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it. There's a comic, I think it's 936. If you Google XKCD 936, I remember that for this talk, so I didn't memorize it before. So if you go look at that, it shows you the comparison of a password, you know, using all these characters, lowercase, uppercase, and how long it would take for a person to crack it, versus the password called correct horse staple battery. 4 random words strung together as a passphrase. Which one do you think would be easier to crack? The one with lowercase, uppercase characters, or correct horse staple battery? First one's harder to crack? No, actually the last one is harder to crack. Yeah. Takes much longer to crack. Because,
Thousands of words.
yeah.
Really?
Takes a lot longer to crack. But, I mean, let's say you don't want to spend the time to remember these types of phrases. I think a password management tool is better than nothing. Better than using, you know, password 123. If you hear about like password breaches that have happened, if you go online, look up any password breach that has happened over the last few years, some people analyze the passwords that have been captured, and they show you the number of people that use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 password. You know, these simple things like A, B, C, D. it's staggering just how many people use these simple, basic passwords because they don't want to remember. And I don't think, a lot of kids really care about, creating passwords that are safe and secure. I think they're just trying to log into these accounts. And if it just so happens that their Facebook password is the same as their Gmail password, and someone gets their Facebook password, they'll get into their Gmail account. So,
Little side note, little humor for this, because I think this could get pretty deep. I saw a meme yesterday on Instagram, and it was the boss from The Office, and he says, "I set my password to be incorrect. That way, when I guess it wrong, it says your password is incorrect." And he knows what the password is. I'm sorry, that was perfect for today. So your password is incorrect. So you just put that in. Oh, those memes are genius. All right.
Josh?
Yes.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you explain what cloud is?
The cloud?
okay, so the cloud is basically stored offline on a server hosted somewhere else. So if your passwords are being stored, they're stored on a server outside of your computer on another company's, server farm. So if they have a server farm somewhere in Northern California, Seattle, your password is stored there. Usually it's encrypted so that, if someone does access it, it's really difficult for them to decrypt it. So that's what I mean by the cloud.
We're going to, oh yes, one more.
I just like to talk about passwords again because I've read so many articles and written them myself, and what I've been led to believe is that using actual words is less safe than using those uppercase, lowercase. Can you tell me where you got your data from? I'd like to look into that because I think I've been disseminating a little bit of inaccurate information.
Well, no, I mean, it's not that those passwords are bad, uppercase, lowercase. Those are better than simple passwords like Lakers or something like Semper Fi. Those are, one step above. But the problem is if you're using a tool like he was describing earlier to crack passwords, it would take less time to crack a password that's, uppercase, lowercase than it would a passphrase that's much longer, that's like 30 characters long. It would take more time for a brute force tool to crack that password.
I'm just going to put an except into that sentence. So when I use uppercase, lowercase, I also throw in some special characters. If you're talking about uppercase, lowercase in real words, then I would agree. But if you're talking about uppercase, lowercase in not real words and the length, my understanding is those are harder to crack up.
When you say not real words, I mean that varies. So there's, just to kind of explain for those of you who don't know, common practice has been for a long time to exchange special characters for letters. For example, use the @ symbol to substitute for A, $sign for S, exclamation point, or as us geeks call it, bang, for other letters. That has gotten to be so common that the password cracking software now includes those as part of the letter, so it just basically extended the alphabet beyond 26
No, I'm not
characters.
talking about those at all.
Right, but what I'm saying is what happens is each letter, whether it's within a word or not, from a brute force standpoint, the complexity or the time it takes to crack goes up exponentially each character you add. So it's, I think, a big part of what he's talking about is the length.
So they're talking about computers hacking, and you're thinking about a real human.
I'm talking about computers hacking only
Okay.
because I have a blog, and I would tell you that just between yesterday and today, I probably had 15 attempts of people machines trying to log into my blog, and I have certain safety guards in place so that the machine can't crack it. I don't use real words and focus on uppercase and lowercase. I use non-signal words, and I incorporate special characters, and I feel that that is more safe than a passphrase.
Think about it this way, with earthquakes, with the Richter scale, when you go up every point, it goes up, the strength goes up exponentially. Same way with the length of a password. Every extra character you add makes it so much harder for the hacker to crack that. And so to his point, a passphrase that's like 30 characters long will literally take infinity to crack. Even the NSA may take a really long time for them to crack that password using a password generation tool. Now, if there's a keylogger on your system, so you've clicked on something like, you click here for a free iPad or whatever, you click it, malware gets installed on your machine, that's different. Because now you have someone that's actually intercepting and snooping or sniffing what you're typing in the keyword. That's game over. No length of a password will save you there. But in the instances where they've hacked into a system and that password is being stored somewhere, the longer you have it, it's better. Like my boss, her password is, I'm not lying, probably 30, 40 characters, and I always laugh because she keeps trying to type it in, and she keeps like back fingering something. So it'll take her like 3 minutes to log in sometimes. I don't understand that all. But she's like, I lead by example. I have to do this.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. Also, before we jump into the next one, if you guys have any videos, I know there's some really helpful YouTube videos that explain this, best practices. I'd love to get those so that I can e-blast it to everybody in here and we can watch a video next week. If you don't mind, I'm actually writing that down to send me a video. I'm sure you have that username or something like that. I'd love to. Would you guys like that? Would you like a video that explains? You can then share it with school districts and all your clients and so on. It'd be great. So walk us through some resources we can use, and this is where Sprint. Oh,
question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to keep it quick. I had a school district that I worked with that would actually wipe their computers every summer and reload all of the software on them. That's kind of intensive, but you think that's a good practice because you're talking about keystroke loggers and
Yes. I don't know about that extreme, but that's a good point. It's a common perception that when you delete a file, it's gone. That's not true. What actually is deleted is the pointer in the operating system that says this file's over here. That file is still there, and there's a lot of very simple methods that you can get it off, especially if you're on Windows. And another example, and I read this, that was about a year ago, where printers, people don't realize that there are hard drives and RAM in printers. And so there was some warehouse that had all these printers that people had thrown away, and people were going through and pulling out the hard drive, and they have all thousands and thousands of documents that were printed on that machine, like law firms and things like that. Long story short, when you erase something, it's not gone. There's a lot of tools. Mac actually comes with one out of the box, and I forgot to name it because I threw the Mac away. But basically what it does, and Windows has one that you can pay for, but it basically writes ones and zeros all over the place, erases it, writes ones and zeros all over the place. So that all the free areas of memory that actually have files that you can no longer see get written over. That's a really good policy to have, especially if you're doing anything that is an illegal thing or that sort of stuff that you don't want to get found. And if you sell your laptop, definitely wipe that out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I heard a story yesterday about I was playing with Sprint's little devices, and I actually tried one of these out in the office. I logged in my Gmail address and downloaded it, configured it to see what it's like, and tested the smaller of the two. It's really neat. And then I was going to log out, and I went, no, let's wipe the whole darn thing, right? And I Googled it. I said, how do you do that? And it gives you the easy steps. That's neat. But then I started looking at some of the other results, and it said this is so important because if you turn it in and you refurbish or get an upgrade, some device manufacturers or stores have actually sold hundreds of these things that were not wiped, so it had all the old people's stuff on it before they returned it and upgraded the phone. Kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. You should, Sprint is actually the leader in recycling phones in the industry. It's such a great practice, and it's something that we do a lot of. And we always tell people, don't turn a phone in and recycle it, because a lot of times you can get credit or money for doing so. And it's a win-win for everybody. You're keeping the phone out of the landfill. You're allowing someone to reuse the parts of it for something and reuse it. But you do have to be careful to take that SIM card out and go online. It is very simple, but you have to take the 10 minutes to do it and look up the instructions for how to wipe that phone clean before you recycle it.
Google how to wipe my Android or how to reset my iPhone, stuff like that. You'll find everything you need on YouTube. Everything. What tools can we use to be safe on this topic?
Well, I would say, you'll notice how we spend a lot of time talking about passwords, and it's so important. And then I think at the end of the conversation you said, but if you click on a link, game over. So I would say enlist your kids as investigators with you in helping to really be aware and figure out, you don't want to scare them, but you want them to be aware of the way that people are trying to make money. So why do people phish? Because they're trying to steal information from you so that they can make money. So, if a link is sent to you that says it's from somebody, or it's something interesting, or it's related to Clash of Clans that you play all the time, or Minecraft, or you might click on it. And if you click on it, you're not sure where it came from. You are game over.
Yeah.
So I think that enlisting your kids in the whole process and understanding.
So, like in the case of
lottery winners, or on Instagram it's always like free Southwest ticket, or you know that
Yeah.
stuff. What do they get from getting all those followers?
So for them, the main thing is they can create an account that's supposedly Southwest or whatever, and they get all these people following them. If they tell them to eventually go to a website and fill out a form, they can, you know, potentially get your personal information. But for them, it's all about the affiliate money. So if they go through, fill out a survey, answer questions, and the person thinks, okay, I'll get free Southwest tickets. You don't, but the bad guy gets some money in his pocket. But just to keep on that, there's a couple of things that I want to kind of caution you guys about. We talked about Snapchat and Tinder. I don't know if we didn't talk about Tinder, but Tinder is another one that you got to be careful about with your older kids who might be on this app, which is for dating. Both Snapchat and Tinder have been hit by spam runs where you have people pretending to be attractive girls for the most part, and they match up with people. Or on Snapchat, you get a snap from someone being, a pretty girl saying, "Hey, add me on Kik." And then, the person will add them on Kik, which is a messaging app that Josh talked about earlier. If you go there, it starts having a conversation with you, but it's not really a person, it's a bot. And the bot's like talking about how horny they are and how they want you to get on a webcam with them, and they tell you to click on a link, and then you go to this link, and then it tells you to sign up for this webcam site, but you need a credit card. So then they get your credit card information, in the fine print it says after 3 days you'll be charged $50, $80 or more. So, this is a new emerging scam that's been happening on these dating apps and on Snapchat. And there's other types of things happening on Snapchat too, like free gift cards for Amex, free, Tiffany's boxes around Valentine's Day. So, that's why I kind of think knowing what's happening there, like following blogs and keeping up with what's going on is going to be beneficial because you can help pass that information on to the kids.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that the age-old, if it sounds too good to be true, it is.
Yep.
I mean, a hot girl isn't gonna text you.
Trust me, it's just not.
What? What are you saying?
Not in LA.
There are so many examples of phishing scams. One I just heard of, and I'm sure they tried every carrier, but they said they were texting people, "You're a valued customer. We thank you for your business. $50 off next month's bill. Just click here." Now, if you thank you from Sprint. So if you are a Sprint customer, I am a valued customer. I do spend hundreds of dollars. Of course, they're going to give me $50 off. Click. So if it sounds too good to be true, never click. Don't click, delete the email, call a company. Did you guys just send me an email? Are you doing a promotion right now that says this?
Yes, I was just going to add to a great point, amazing points by the way, right on this panel. I would say the three things that we say is they will try and prey on three human emotions. One is fear, right? So it's like, if you don't respond within 24 hours, your account is going to be disabled. Like, oh my God, I better log in. And so fear is one of them. Second one is greed. So, click here for a free iPad, or click here and you get $50. So if it's too good to be true, it's true. And the third one is curiosity. So it's like, track your package, FedEx, or, here's your flight information. You're like, I don't remember booking a flight, but let me just click on the link anyway. So those three emotions, if you see those are really, really bad. I just want to quickly add a couple of tools that I thought would be really good for you guys. Secunia, S-E-C-U-N-I-A. Secunia, it's a Windows app. It's so cool. What you do is you download it. It looks at all the apps you have on your Windows machine. It keeps an eye on them, makes sure if they are out of date, it will download the latest version for free. And it just does everything for you for free. So Secunia is an awesome app. On the Droid F-Secure app permissions. What it does is it basically looks at all the permissions of all the apps you've installed on your Droid, and if any of them are kind of like nefarious or they're charging you money, they'll alert you to that. So that one is also a really good one. There's also a resource I just came across last week. I want to share with you. The University of New Orleans is doing a free teaching for any teacher that signs up. You will be flown there for free room and board, and free food, and they will teach you cybersecurity for 2 weeks, an intensive course, for one condition, that you promise to take that information back and teach your students, and then after 1 year write about it and say how amazing it was and how all the students are so engaged and now they want to get into InfoSec. So the University of New Orleans, I can send you the...
Sounds too good to be true.
No. I looked into that because I was like,
don't click on it.
Yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, that one's an awesome resource for you guys. So those ones, yeah, I know we're running out of time. So.
What was the website?
Secunia, S-E-C-U-N-I-A. Yeah. And then also the Mac has a free antivirus called Sophos. If you guys have a Mac, S-O-P-H-O-S, has a free antivirus for the Mac. I always try and I'm so sorry. I love you. Symantec's an awesome product, but for those of you guys who can't, don't want to pay up, yeah. So S-O-P-H-O-S. Sorry.
It's all right, no worries.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Excuse me, Satnam, you said a phrase or a word, a bot?
A bot,
What
yes.
is that?
So it's like an automated program that is, once you message somebody, it will start going through a script, a predefined script, kind of just like following along. So it'll send you like, hi, how you doing? And then you send a response, and then it will send a predefined response to you.
It's like
Short for robot.
Yeah, it's a robot.
And I would say this, that certain three-letter government agencies have built so sophisticated bots that they can hold up a normal chat conversation without anybody knowing they're not doing it. There's been discussions about how they have Facebook accounts and contact people on chat and other things as an intelligence gathering. So these bots are not simple, they're very sophisticated.
These speakers and experts are going to be around for the next 15, 10 minutes maybe. We're going to take a 5-minute break for the bathroom. We're going to start with our next set of experts. Let's give a round of applause for these experts.